I'm William Brandenberger. I'm sitting here with
Chris McClure.
Chris McClure, and we're going to sit around. I'm going to ask him a couple of questions. We're going to have a discussion about abortion because everybody's favorite subject.
Okay.
What do you make of Governor Northam's recent decrees on keeping infants comfortable after they've survived abortion?
The question that I would have was if he was talking about actually aborting a viable baby versus was he talking about keeping a baby viable, comfortable that was not viable to live.
Okay.
And I watched it and to be honest, I'm not sure what he meant.
To be honest, I'm not either. The only reason it came to me was that, well, Governor Cuomo up in New York, specifically came out and said it.
They specifically, and I've got a real problem with that. And I'm pro-life. Period. My mom was pro-life. My parents, and to give you an example, and this is what I loved about her. She had my little brother, who's almost 19 years younger than me, when she was 45 years old. They advised her to get an amniocentesis, which was pretty new back then, and she said no. Why? The baby's a child that the Lord's given me. Whatever, if he's healthy or not, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's a gift. The child is a gift. So she went on and had him, and everything was fine. And she was very pro-life, and she went and marched in the National Right to Life marches. But then she also partnered up and worked with the Crisis Pregnancy Center in Roanoke, and she would take young pregnant single women who were choosing to go on and have their child. She would work with them. She would go to the doctor with them. She would help make sure that they had everything they needed. She would bring them to the house. So, for me, it's somebody who practices what they preach. If you're going to get out and rant and rave about something, then you ought to be willing to step in there and help out too.
I've always kind of taken it as a zero-sum game.
So.
When I was younger, I was of the opinion, well, okay, if the mother's life is in danger or rape or incest cases, then but that doesn't make it not a viable human being. Is kind of what I've come up to, and those are so rare that they certainly don't constitute
That's
what the
the
abortion
problem.
industry uses.
Yeah.
That's kind of a non sequitur.
And I did read one time back in the 80s, there was a study that said 80% of abortions were due to convenience. It wasn't
just
convenient
birth
to be
control.
pregnant. Yeah, it was a form of birth control. And I've gone back and forth through my own, thought processes on it. Is that, case of rape or incest or something like that, but then you also go back, it's still a child.
Yeah, it doesn't change
in
what it is.
And that child, to me, is a creation of God.
So you believe it absolutely right to life.
I watched
a baby didn't do it. It's kind of the same thing in my mind as blaming a gun for what somebody goes out and does. You're attacking the argument's not right.
Yes. It's unfair.
If that makes sense.
It's unfair to a rape victim. But on the other hand,
it is. It's just
it does, and this is where maybe I'm less educated than I should be. But if a rape victim goes to the hospital right off, Do we ever get to the point where there's a fetus?
Well, and that's, I mean, I don't know where we do have that day after pill, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm somewhat fuzzy on the abortion thing completely when that's available, or 25 cents for a condom, and that industry. I mean, the evils that have come out of it and the things we've seen that have come out of it have been, well, vomit-inducing, I suppose is how I put it. And what do you think of a country like Iceland that is no longer has any children with Down syndrome? They've eugenically gotten rid of them. I mean, that's kind of frightening to me, to be honest. What do you think about that?
It's
celebrated.
It's a child, and if you've ever been around a Down syndrome kid,
It's just a kid.
It's just a kid, but it's more. I mean, there's a joy that a Down syndrome kid can bring, and this is. You don't ever want to wish a Down syndrome child. You don't. But if you've ever had the opportunity to know one, you will see a purity and a level of love that is way too uncommon.
You're seeing what a lack of cynicism that most people get from the world, I suppose.
And you can't, I had a professor tell me one time when I made a huge mistake on a problem set. And it was right off, I had a math error right early off, and it carried through the whole problem set, 20-page problem set.
Oh, jeez.
And he said, Chris, I was mad because the grade I got was not good. And he said, Chris, if you take a gun, you accidentally shoot yourself in the foot, it doesn't matter if it was a mistake or not. You still shot
yourself in the foot.
In that, it's easy as a male to step back here and say, well, I'm pro-life, and this shouldn't have to happen. But
Can I stop you and make an argument?
Sure.
Or ask a question. Because I really hate that. I hate hearing that woman's body, woman's choice. There's a father there somewhere.
I totally agree with you on that.
I mean, do you have some thoughts on that?
There's a father there, and more importantly, there is a child there.
That's the most important. I agree with you on that one.
I watched this video. Remember the old Nova show?
Oh yeah, Nova on the Science Channel.
And they were showing, and at first you didn't know, but it's the beginning of the embryo, and at first you didn't know what it was going to be, and it turned out to be a chick. But it showed that, when you have the sperm meets with the egg and it forms a zygote, and then it splits, second time. And I actually, back up here a minute, I actually got to hear the man speak that cloned the first calf.
Oh, did you really?
And they cloned the first calf pretty close to the same time that Dolly the sheep was cloned.
Oh yeah, I remember when Dolly. Yeah.
But
when they cloned Dolly.
But what he was telling us, and this is where the stem cells are. You got the zygote, and then this splits to 2 cells. It splits to 4 cells. It splits to 8 cells,
okay.
and that's your stem cells. That whole DNA strand is wide open. Everything's working. When you go from the 8 cell stage to the 16 cell stage, when they split again, cell differentiation takes place. And now there's switches cut off along that DNA
that's
chain.
What forms your
and
XX,
then
XY,
it starts going to different tasks. And in this video, they were showing the cells splitting.
Mm-hmm.
And not only were they splitting, I mean, they had different colors and all to them.
Oh, really?
and they were moving to where they needed to be in the body. So the cells that were going to make up the spinal cord were migrating through that embryo, moving to where the spinal cord was going to be.
And that, I mean, that,
And so when the Bible says that I have knit you in your mother's womb,
yeah, before you were,
we saw it. And Nova in that thing said, how they said they may have used the word miraculous.
I don't know how else you explain it.
But to watch that video, and it's real hard to find. You've got to dig now to find it on YouTube or whatever, on the internet or whatever. It's kind of buried, but it was wild to watch those things move. And then you hear all the stories about how, and I'm unsure. I don't recall right now how early you detect the heartbeat. How early?
I think it was 6 weeks, 5 weeks,
6 weeks,
somewhere
or
right around in there. It's not
and
long.
how young they are when they start feeling pain,
Yeah, it's
recognizing the
nothing.
mother and father's
Yeah.
voices.
That's something that I don't necessarily understand. Some of these people that go and do that. I mean, after